Welcome back to HISD Unscripted. Today I'm here with Dr. Carter and we're going to talk about the VATRE and what comes next now that it's officially passed for our district. So Dr. Carter, thank you for joining me today. We are super excited that the VATRE passed, so I just want to start out by thanking everyone who supported HISD since the beginning of this initiative and of these conversations that we've had since, early last year. People like Gallagher Construction, David Faltis with Government Capital, the HISD School Board, the PAC Committee, Adam Benya, Naoli Reese, Hereford Brand, K-Pan, and all of our advocates who went out into the community, spoke facts, and of course, we want to thank all our voters who went out and voted for the VATRE. So our official numbers on Tuesday night were 61.4% for and 38.6% against. So the big question everyone is wondering now is what's next? So I'll let you kind of start talking about that.
Well, I think first of all, I'm a little surprised that 38% were against it. Evidently, we didn't do a very good job explaining the necessity and explaining what needed to happen in order to bring this money back from the state into the district. So I'm a little disappointed at those numbers. Although I'm glad it passed, and I think it's something that we need to look at. We've already sent out our survey to staff, and we've already got a little over 200 responses on how to use this money. We also want to get some help from the community, anybody that is interested in helping us determine how this money is spent so we can keep an oversight on it. As some of the people said that we'd spend it how we wanted to. No, we're going to spend it how the staff asked us to. With school board approval, for sure. So that's kind of what's next.
So let's talk about a little bit that first comment that you made about how 38% of our community voted no for it. I thought that was a little bit higher number than I expected as well. I was hoping that we did a good enough job to kind of inform our community what this was for, and also, the necessity that our school district had for this. And so I was a little shocked at that as well, but what can you do?
Well, I think finding out that, the last time we had the voter list, less than 200 of our employees even voted. So the initiative wasn't important to them, or they would have gone out and voted. The other thing I found out is that several of our employees still aren't registered to vote. Which is a disappointment as well. So I think one of the things we need to do going forward is make sure we offer some opportunities for our staff to get registered to vote, but also some community members to get registered to vote, because there's a good group. I think the last number I heard is that our city is around 15,000 people and about 8,500 are registered to vote. So in order to get your voice heard, in order to cast your vote, cast your ballots, you need to get out and get registered to vote.
Well, and I think it's important for us just to continue to emphasize the importance of voting, even on elections where nothing about the school is on there, because they are important to our community and it affects all of us.
Yes, there were several things on the ballot that were more important than even the VATRE, as far as the homestead exemptions, the business exemptions, the ag exemptions, those things that benefit our community as a whole. But I still think the VATRE benefits the community as a whole because it benefits the school, and we're a pretty large part of the community.
Definitely. So let's talk about the survey now that we sent out to staff. Kind of what's on that survey, and what are we asking staff, to voice their opinion on?
Well, first of all, we ask them if we spend this money for retention and bonuses, those kinds of things, which would you prefer? Would you prefer that to be added on to your current salary, or would you prefer that as a 1 or 2 time a year proposition? And right now, a stipend once or twice a year is leading by about 9 points. So that's one thing that's on there. The other thing is, how else would you like for us to spend this money? Student programs, facilities, maintenance, security upgrades, those kinds of things. Then I think there's some open-ended questions about what else do you think we need to look at? What else are some things that we need to consider? So I think it's a pretty good survey.
So I think one of the biggest areas on that survey that we've seen is, do we want to start with our lowest paid employees, with our custodial, our maintenance, just all of those employees, and then work work up to, I don't know, teachers that have been here the longest. I don't know how that scale would go. And so I've actually seen a lot of responses that are in more support for like our paras and for our custodials to kind of get up to a more livable wage, because we all know that you could probably go work at McDonald's and make more than what our paras are currently making. And so I think that's something that we're definitely going to look into and consider as we go forward with whatever choice is made on how this funds will be spent.
Yeah, I just spent some time going through those open-ended questions, and that is on there a lot. Start at the bottom. One person responded, I just got $8,000 raise as a teacher. I think you need to start with the paras. Our paras are underpaid. Lot of I think good information that will help not just a committee look at that, but also the board to make a final decision on what we're going to do. Good information from the staff.
Well, and I think that says a lot like towards our staff that are really looking at, the foundation of our school district. It's those employees that set the tone for student success. Like we cannot do anything in our district without our custodial department, without our maintenance department making sure all the lights are working and our grass is mowed and things like that. And then, of course, our paras that do almost as much as teachers do these days and who are having to step in and fill multiple roles throughout the district, especially with things like teacher shortages, sub shortages, and things like that. And so I think it's pretty commendable to our teachers and our staff who are wanting to take care of those groups and just start looking at them first.
All right, and there's, we're going to have a meeting Monday morning to begin the discussion about the teacher incentive allotment, which will benefit teachers only, again, but it's an opportunity for them to make as much as $20,000 to $25,000 more if we implement that program, and the state will fully fund that endeavor. So that's one thing we're going to look at, and of course it's about a 3-year process before we actually see the money, before the teachers see the money. So that's something we want to get on and start using that as well, which I think would help in the long run.
And obviously we want to make things fair across the board. Like our favorite thing is fair and consistent. I know Ms. Vollmer, that's her saying right there.
Yes, it is.
And so, being able to get the opinions of our staff and seeing how they are feeling about this, I think has been really important. And just for the transparency of this process, we kind of campaigned on that transparency. We want to be transparent. I think we want to be transparent with everything we do. We're not closed door district. If you want to come in and ask us questions about anything, we'll gladly welcome you into our offices and answer those.
Sure.
And so as we continue with the Vader and as we continue, to look at what we're going to spend the money on, I think it's just important for us to get the opinions of our community, to get the opinions of the people that it will affect the most, which is our staff. And so we're headed in the right direction, I believe.
Yeah, and we talk about community involvement a lot. The interesting thing is the first time we had one of those meetings to discuss putting together a committee, we had like 50, 60 people there. And that dwindled down to a very, very small group that maintained consistency in coming and being involved in that process. And so we start off good, but then those people don't want to really be involved when they find out how much time and effort goes into that. That's why it's commendable for those that were on the PAC committee to have stayed the course and help us get this Vader passed.
Definitely. Yes, definitely a big shout out to our PAC committee. Those, I think, 6 to 8 individuals around there that kind of just stayed with us throughout the whole process and really helped be the forerunners of this campaign.
Absolutely. And I hope they can become an oversight committee as well. I know when we had our bond at Lipan, one of the things that we did was take that PAC committee and make them a bond oversight committee where once a month I gave them a report on the exact expenditures of each part of the bond. And I think we can do the same thing with this. That PAC committee, and I'm having lunch with them on Monday to discuss their role as it goes forward. Can they help us with this oversight, but can they also begin the process of discussing building a new high school?
So let's talk about that. So with the Vader, we had to pass a Vader first before we looked at any other options like a bond. And so a bond can be sometimes a big, scary word that, brings a lot of emotions, I think, to the table. But what is our district looking at going forward within the next, couple years or 5 years, anything like that, in regards to a bond?
Well, I think the first thing to remember is construction costs are about 40 to 50% higher than they were in 2020. And so each year that we put that off, those construction costs are continuing to rise because they haven't fallen back down to pre-2020 rates yet. And I don't look for them to do that. So I was talking to one of the Gallagher guys, and he was a superintendent at Sinton, and they built a $70 million high school in 2021. And it included fields and football and a 1,200 member high school with new cafeteria, new performing arts center, all the things, totally brand new. It was $70 million. That same complex would cost about $150 million today. And so the construction costs have gone through the roof. And so the longer we delay, the longer we continue to put it off and just talk about it, the higher it's going to be. Right now, we're looking somewhere in between $120, $150 million bond in order to do what we need to do to bring our high school up to date.
So I know a lot of the comments that we've also been seeing is we need a new high school. We need updates to the high school, things like that. Anyone that has gone through the high school recently will probably agree with that statement. I know we took a group of community members about a year or two ago just to walk the halls, and they were all like, oh my gosh, this is how it was whenever I was in school, which was 30, 40 years ago.
Right.
And so, it is time for a new high school. And so we have to start having these conversations on a bond and looking at options because, our pipes are collapsing, I think, right? And some of our sewer lines in that school, the bathrooms are crumbling, which they are being fixed right now. Some of the bathrooms at the high school are being fixed to where they're a little bit more usable and have a little bit more privacy as well. But, just overall, there's only so many Band-Aids you can put on a crumbling building.
Correct. And the reality is all of our buildings are in those around the same years, late 50s, early 60s, except for the CTE building. That's the biggest. And, of course, you upgraded Tierra Blanca as well. And we all put, the last bond put new faces on all the elementary schools and things like that, the safe foyers and things to keep the intruders out. But still, the foundation of the schools are old. And, you look at what's happening in larger cities, those pennies are worth a whole lot more in larger cities than they are here. And so it's going to take a huge plan over the next 10 years to put monies in place and to put things in place to be able to replace some of these schools. One of the things that's on that survey, too, is that we need multi-purpose rooms at all the elementaries. And the reason for that is because right now we're using the high school, the elementary cafeterias for PE. Well, that's hard because 2 to 3 hours a day they're having lunch in there, and so you have to, that wreaks havoc on a master schedule. If they had a safe room outside, and a safe room is where, like a tornado shelter, where community members and staff members and kids can get in there if we have a tornado, but it also can be a multi-purpose room where they can, play volleyball or they can play basketball or whatever it is they need to do inside.
Definitely.
For PE.
Yes. There's so many things I think that are being brought up on we have a little bit of extra money now, so what can it go to? But I think it's important to emphasize how much $2 million just isn't,
Correct.
It sounds like a lot and we really appreciate it and it's going to make a big difference in our district. But, our raise that we gave this year, the 3% on the midpoint, cost around...
And it didn't include teachers.
Yes, and it didn't include the teachers. It was just all support staff. Cost around
$700,000. Yeah.
So if we if/when we do the salary increases or the stipends, it's going to be around another $700,000 as well. And so right there is already almost half of our money, our Vader money, gone.
Right.
And so that doesn't leave us with a lot of wiggle room to work with. And whenever you're looking at bigger projects like a new high school or additional spaces like the elementary gyms and things that are costing these days up to $20 million for a room, it's difficult decisions that need to be made.
Well, I know that back in the 2018 bond, when they were discussing multipurpose rooms, they were about $1.5 million apiece. They're going to be higher now because I would want to make them safe rooms, and that's about triple the cost. Not 4 million. I'm not talking about that, but the construction of the outside of the building becomes a lot more heavy duty because it will keep them safe inside of a tornado, and so that does cost a little bit more. So 2 to 2.5 million is probably a good estimate on what those are going to cost now.
Mm-hmm.
And the longer we delay, the more those costs are going to go up.
Yes. And so, like, the Vader money we'll see every year, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Those 3 cents will always be with us.
Yes.
Unless they change the formula
Mm-hmm.
or the finance. They just scrap it and start over, which they could.
Which is always a possibility.
Always
You
a
never know what they're going to do.
It's always a possibility with the state.
But so this money should be coming in every year. But I think something also that's important to emphasize is the compression that is still occurring from the state. This year we're being compressed 1.6%.
No, 1.6 pennies.
1.6 pennies, sorry. 1.6 pennies, which takes away, thousands from our district. We've already been compressed like 33 pennies?
37 total since 2018.
And so that has been, millions of dollars that our
Sure.
district has lost. And so the state's plan is to still compress our pennies, for the years to come. And so eventually, the Vader is going to have to pick up some of the slack on where the state is not providing us with what we need. So I think it's important to look at these bigger projects now and, things like a high school bond and stuff like that, while we still have, the funding from the state to kind of support our maintenance at the moment. And, then as that way we don't get further into the years and we just are having to use this money to keep the lights on.
That's correct. Plan ahead. That's what we're going to have to do. And so I'm hoping that PAC committee that helped us get the Vader passed will become the nucleus of a bond committee that will help us make a strategic plan for the next 5 to 10 years on how we replace some of these things and how we, put some of these measures in place. And, if we decide to go out for a bond, one of the things we'll look at is it best to remodel the high school, or is the infrastructure below it so bad that it's got to be replaced? That's a big issue, because right now there are some issues underneath it that we can't get to in order to fix. Can they be fixed another way? I don't know, but that's something we could certainly look at, because remodel would be a lot cheaper than
Mm-hmm.
building a new one. And so those are some things that we would definitely consider.
Definitely. And I also don't want to dismiss the importance of the Vader. The Vader is bringing in such a positive thing to our district. We're so grateful for our community for just going out and voting and just seeing the need in our schools to just help maintain what we have. I know we've talked about how the migrant program, they lost their funding for a little bit, and we had to step in and kind of keep those staff on board with money out of our personal, not personal, but the school district's, budget.
Correct.
That we had to find somewhere. And then, the federal government has cut SPED money. And so that's probably going to trickle down to our district eventually. And so things like that are just constantly happening, the unfunded mandates, and that just seem to pile on every year. Just all those things that Vader is going to help just us support. And that way we don't have to lose, crucial staff in our district. That way we can kind of, boost morale with providing additional stipends or increasing salary to our crucial employees that need it, like those paras and custodial, or just all across the board. And so we just really want to thank our community for just going out and supporting the Vader, and for just all the work that was done throughout these last few months to get that information out there. And even to our naysayers, I want to thank them too, because you brought out a lot of comments about the district that we were able to address and provide facts for, that helped just the overall understanding of what our district does and why we do things.
Right. And yeah, I agree 100%. I think we are very thankful for what the community's done. And we put an article in the paper this week about being thankful. And certainly we are there, but we have to continue on. The sad part is school finance is very complex. And I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to talk down to anyone, but there's a whole lot of things that go on behind the scenes that we have to take care of that many people don't have to. For example, there were a lot of people who, across the state of Texas, a couple of years ago, did away with all their librarians and put paras into those positions because of state funding cuts. We kept our librarians. During that conversation about the migrant workers, we had made the decision to take money out of another program and other places in order to make sure they weren't furloughed or done away with completely because of the importance that they serve to our district. And so while we're thankful, there's a reality coming down from the federal government and the state government that really tightens the things that we can do and can't do.
For sure. And I kind of just want to put it out there that if anyone has an issue or a question with how we're spending our money, please come see us. Just come talk to us. We can show you our books and what every dollar goes to if you want to get down to that detail.
Yeah, and we were talking about that before we started. $32 to $35 million of our $40 million budget is staff.
Yes.
I mean, that's just the reality. When you have 625 staff members, you can kind of figure out the math on that. But
for sure,
the very bulk of our budget goes toward our people.
Which it should. Our people are the backbone of our schools. We can't educate kids without our people. We can't house the students in our buildings without our people. So they're important.
Yeah.
At least we think so, right?
I think so too. I agree.
Well, I know these conversations will still be continuing as we move forward. And if anyone out there that's listening or watching wants to be on that oversight committee, please reach out to me or Dr. Carter. We'd love to have you on there. We'd love to see or hear your opinion on this. Just because the Vader passed and it's technically over with, the campaigning part of it at least, doesn't mean that the conversations are over. We're still open and ready to talk to you about anything with the district. And so, just look out for more information on that committee if you're interested, and just keep up with us. We're still going to be having these conversations. We're still going to be pushing out information as we go forward, just about this whole process, because again, we want to remain transparent. We want to continue to build trust with our community. And so that way y'all can see that we are doing exactly what we said we were going to do. And that way, if we ever go out for a bond in the future, you have that complete trust in us, that we're going to do what we say we're going to do.
Absolutely.
Well, Dr. Carter, is there anything else that we need to talk about today? I know we could probably talk a long time about what's coming next and all the needs in our district and things like that. But for time's sake, is there anything else?
No, ma'am. Just want to, again, reiterate thank you to the community and for what they've done, and the committees and all the people that help us get this passed. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Just keep up with us on Facebook, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast, and we'll see you next time with another important topic here at HISD.